In the freezing silence of the Ural Mountains, sometime in early February 1959, 9 experienced hikers made a decision that still makes no sense. In the middle of the night, they fled their tent, not through the entrance, but by cutting their way out from the inside. They ran barefoot into temperatures below -25 degrees, leaving behind everything they needed to survive. Their boots, their coats, their supplies, all abandoned in the snow. Some of them never made it past the forest. Others were found months later, buried beneath layers of ice, with injuries so severe that investigators could not explain them. No clear evidence of an attack, and yet something had driven all 9 of them into the darkness. Even today, decades later, no one can say with certainty what happened on that mountain. This is the story of the Dyatlov Pass incident, a mystery shaped by fear, by isolation, and by something that may have forced 9 people to run from safety into certain death. To understand how something like this could happen, we have to begin at the start of the expedition. In January 1959, a group of 10 young hikers set out on a demanding journey across the northern Ural Mountains, a region known for its brutal winters and unforgiving terrain. They were not amateurs or thrill seekers chasing danger for its own sake, but trained and experienced individuals who had completed similar expeditions before. Their leader, Igor Dyatlov, was known for discipline and preparation, the kind of person who planned routes carefully and accounted for risk. This was not supposed to be a reckless journey. It was a routine challenge, difficult but manageable for a group like theirs. But early into the trip, one member fell ill and made the decision to turn back. A simple choice at the time. The remaining 9 continued forward, deeper into isolation, further away from help, moving step by step into a landscape where even small mistakes could become fatal. By the time they reached the slopes of a mountain known as Kolatsiakl, a name often translated as Dead Mountain, conditions had already grown harsh. Winds cut across the open terrain, visibility dropped, and the temperature fell to levels that could kill within minutes without proper shelter. And yet, instead of descending into the forest, where they might have found protection from the elements, the group chose to set up camp on an exposed slope, a decision that still raises questions today. It left them vulnerable, with no natural barrier against the wind, no trees to break the force of the storm, nothing but their tent between them and the freezing night. At some point, something happened. Something sudden enough and terrifying enough to force all 9 hikers to abandon that tent immediately. They did not dress properly. They did not gather supplies. They did not leave in an orderly way. Instead, they cut their way out from the inside, as if escape could not wait even a second longer. And then they ran into the darkness. When search teams arrived weeks later, what they found only deepened the mystery. The tent was still standing, partially covered in snow. Inside were their belongings, boots lined up, clothes folded, equipment untouched, everything a person would instinctively take if they were trying to survive in such conditions. Outside, a trail of footprints led away from the camp, some barefoot, others wearing only socks, all heading downhill toward the forest, as if the group had moved together, not scattered in panic, but still not prepared for what awaited them. The first bodies were discovered near a tree at the edge of the forest. They had attempted to start a fire, breaking branches, leaving signs of a desperate effort to stay warm. But the fire had not lasted long enough to save them. They died where they stood, exposed to the cold, just meters away from a chance at survival. The rest of the group was not found until months later, when the snow began to melt and reveal what had been hidden beneath. And this is where the mystery becomes even harder to explain. Some of the hikers showed injuries that seemed far beyond what a simple fall or exposure could cause. Crushed ribs, fractured skulls, damage consistent with an immense force. And yet, There were no external wounds, no cuts, no bruises that would normally accompany such trauma. It was as if something had applied pressure without leaving a visible mark. Something powerful and sudden. One of the victims was missing her tongue, a detail that only added to the sense that something deeply unusual had occurred. There were also traces of radiation found on some of the clothing, a discovery that opened the door to even more unsettling possibilities. Investigators at the time were left without a clear answer, eventually closing the case with a vague statement attributing the deaths to a compelling natural force, a phrase that explained nothing and left everything open to interpretation. Over the years, many theories have attempted to fill that gap. Some suggest that an avalanche may have forced the group to flee, though the terrain does not fully support that idea, and the tent itself showed no signs of being buried or crushed in the way such an event would cause. Others point to the possibility of military testing in the area, secret experiments that may have exposed the hikers to unknown weapons or phenomena, especially given reports of strange lights seen in the sky around that time. There are also more subtle explanations, such as infrasound, a natural occurrence that can affect the human mind, potentially causing sudden panic, anxiety, or irrational behavior without an obvious external trigger. And then there are the theories that go further, the ones that suggest something unknown, something we still cannot measure or understand, may have played a role in what happened that night. What remains certain is this: 9 experienced hikers, people who knew how to survive in extreme conditions, abandoned safety and ran into the freezing dark for a reason we still cannot fully explain. There was no clear enemy, no definitive cause, only fragments of evidence scattered across a silent mountain. And even now, decades later, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the most unsettling mysteries ever recorded. Not because we lack theories, but because none of them fully answer the question that matters most. What could possibly have scared them enough to run?